Hey, Redcasters, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Go Big Red. And to start off, we have some from Rhule and Trev talking about expectations. And I think this is really good. Let's start with the Coach Rhule one here. Right. And he talks about what he wants Nebraska to be known for.
I want people to respect when they see that white helmet with that red N on it. And so I want our fans to respect us when they pay their money to come watch us play. I want our opponents to respect us. I want all of college football to respect the way that Nebraska plays the game. And most importantly, I want our players to respect what it means to be a Cornhusker and what it means to be at Nebraska. So this season for me is all about us not just earning, but taking back respect and bringing back respect to Nebraska football. And so once you earn respect, then you can talk about being feared. And that's the process we're going to go through.
So, Mac, it's a process.
Yes.
That's a very Osborne word right there.
Yep.
No one's going to fear Nebraska on day one. We know that. We're coming off of 6 straight losing seasons, 6 bowlless seasons. No one's fearing Nebraska. But that is the goal. That's where we want to get back to. We want to be that program that you are feared. And the first step of that is to get respect. Mm-hmm. I respect what Coach Rhule is trying to do right now.
Right.
I believe in what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to bring Nebraska back through an old school style of play that I think elicits fear. If done well. I mean, when you would play a Michigan team or a Wisconsin team, a hard hitting team, that puts a little fear in you. Oh my gosh, these guys can run on you, kind of thing. That's different than Ohio State. Not that Ohio State doesn't make you fear, but they just have an incredible talent.
They fear you're scared they're going to run the score up on you.
Yeah, and they just have amazing talent. But yeah, like when you played Wisconsin and they could just pound you, which basically what did Wisconsin do? They took Nebraska's style of
Which
play.
one's more emasculating? Just getting the ball ran down your throat without any hope of stopping it, or just getting boat raced because the team you're playing is so fast? I don't know. I feel like the beating is worse.
I mean, I think the beating is worse because if two teams were you have Ohio State of like 2016, the team that beat us 62-3 when we were ranked in the top 10 still. Okay, that team was wildly talented, but that team goes and plays the 95 Huskers, and maybe they're more talented than the 95 Huskers. I don't know. That gets into a talent discussion, right? But we know the style of play that the 95 team can do. Style of play can undo some of the talent advantages the opponent had. 94 Colorado might have been more talented than us. 94 Miami may have been more talented than us, but when you just wear them down, when you beat them down, style means something. And I want us to get back to that style. Coach Rhule talked a couple times today, and he's talked the last offseason about playing that style of football, beating people up and getting, it's not going to happen in the first quarter. It's going to happen in the second and third, and by the fourth, we want to win it. The fourth quarter hasn't been friendly to us the last few years.
No. You brought up an interesting point. Sometimes I think, you talk about the style but as good as Osborne's teams were, they really only had that peak there later at the beginning of the 90s and through the middle part. But, you say, was this team more talented? I feel like sometimes we just say that because we ran option ball or we didn't throw the ball a lot or something like that. Or our defense didn't. We had those 90s rules where you could really hurt people or something like that. I don't know. Maybe we underestimate how good those athletes really were.
Well,
I think sometimes when we look back, we think, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't say people think that way. Maybe, but I wonder if sometimes that gets lost in the conversation. It's like, no, I think those guys were really good.
I think we had a lot of talent. We had an offense that didn't lend itself to sending a lot of guys to the pros.
Agreed.
Respective 100%. To how good we were.
Especially skill position.
We barely would send a wide receiver ever.
Wide receiver, quarterback.
And tight ends, quarterbacks, we weren't sending a lot of those guys there. And because we weren't a big passing attack, we didn't have the tackles. The left tackle that would always be the number one guy in the draft. We rarely ever had that, even though we'd have Outland winner after Outland winner.
Plus
we had
the NFL style change too, right?
Yep.
Like when the NFL was more run heavy there for a while, then they kind of phased in more of a passing game, which kind of, I suppose that it's so funny how it all comes back around. And now the new almost in vogue thing is to huddle.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a quick trend?
To get a fullback back on the field, to huddle, to get under center.
And at the same time, we're doing this. Wisconsin's like, let's speed it up. Let's go. We're going to spray it around the yard.
Did you see Braylon Allen today, the running back, was asked that, I think he was on 93.7 The Ticket, and he was talking about their offense coming in, spreading it out now, and how he'll probably get less touches, but he likes it because there'll be less guys in the box. And
makes sense.
And you can spin anything any way you want. I would argue that that wasn't an issue for Wisconsin in the last few years to warrant making an entire flip of everything. But you know what? That's what they've done. They've sold out on that. I would say they're making similar style whole house changes offensively to what we would have done back in 03 to 04, going from Solich to Callahan.
It's a better comparison to talk about Solich to Callahan than it is to say Frost from Rhule. You know what I mean? Because Wisconsin did have a good thing going. They were doing okay. They like even their middling years that they've had, maybe the last, I don't know, they're still pretty good. They're a formidable
team. They won
at
a 70% clip under Chris, so
that seems pretty good.
It seems like we've seen.
But
this
I understand
before.
the thought too. It's like, okay, but everybody's getting better. We're bringing in USC. We're bringing in UCLA. We're probably going to end up bringing in Oregon or somebody like that. We gotta.
If you're a Badger fan, you don't want to gravitate to mediocrity. That's for sure.
Yeah, don't even say those words. Actually, say those words.
Say those words. Well, let's keep talking about expectations. And all offseason, we've mentioned how Trev and Rhule are kind of on the same page with things. And Trev was asked the same question about some expectations. Here's his answer.
I'm serious about what we talked about last couple of years. It doesn't take many Nebraska fans and our alumni and all of you to look at a team and say, is that a Nebraska team? Is that a team that pays attention to details? Is that a team that's physical and tough and fundamentally sound and plays as a unit, has discipline and accountability in the program? To me, those are the small fundamental things that lead to what we all desire.
The small fundamental things, Mac, we've talked about all offseason, the details, what used to be called little things, which sometimes got misrepresented as turnovers. as penalties, as special teams. Well, those aren't little things. No. Those are pretty important details of football. And when you don't do them well, you're going to lose a lot of games a lot of different ways. And I think,
but usually close and usually late.
Well, if you're not a terrible team, you'll be close.
Yeah. That's true.
If you're a bad team and you have bad details, you'll get blown out every time.
Yeah.
But somehow miraculously Nebraska could keep within at least single digits of most opponents over the last 4 or 5 years, but find every way to lose. And the things that Coach Rhule and Trev are talking about there, from the details to being good in the fourth quarter and conditioning himself to the fourth quarter, wearing opponents down, all that's a philosophy that we know works. We know it certainly works here, and we've seen it work against us.
Would you say the most what would be the most troubling sign that some important things haven't changed? If we're turning the ball over more, or if we're unable to establish a run game, or the dumb penalties, like which one would be the most alarming to you?
I guess right away you see what happened in the spring game and that we had the 6-7 fumbles. Now, I wasn't alarmed by that solely because the vast majority of the people that were doing those fumbles weren't guys that were going to be playing major roles this year. I mean, when Torres, fumbled the one handoff when he hit the fullback, and the ball goes on the ground. I'm like, well, that sucks to watch, but I know Torres isn't going to be the guy taking snaps this year.
Well,
now he's not
for sure.
Now he's not on the team. I think kind of along your point here, we have a question from Coach Steam, and it's what makes you more confident in what Rhule is saying this offseason compared to what we have heard from prior regimes or didn't hear, depending on their approach to opening statements at media days. That's a good point to the fact that this was the best opening statement I've heard in years from a Nebraska coach. Because
I was actually a little underwhelmed with the opening statement, if I'm being honest. And I kind of appreciated that he didn't go off. Like, I really did. I like the fact everyone was sort of expecting this grand sort of like top down, like unveiling of the program type deal because he's such a good orator. He kind of just kept it real simple, which spoke to what he actually said. Got to be humble right now. Mm-hmm. We're nothing to talk about yet. We got to win. We got to earn. So he took questions.
But what makes you more confident? I guess to the coach's question.
What makes me more confident?
What makes you more confident in what Rhule is saying this offseason? I'll give you mine. Rhule has said some things on day one, and he's followed up with them the whole offseason. So I mean, there's already precedence here. When he said, "I want to have physical practices," and you go out there in spring ball and you're seeing guys getting hit, you're seeing quarterbacks basically they wore the green jerseys, but they might as well have taken them off because they were getting hit in practice. When they say, hey, we want to go back and really reinvest in state, and they brought in over 3,000 kids so far this year, so far in camps. There are tangible things to show that what he said he wants to do, he's doing. And
If
so
I'm-
I'd be shocked at some point, if he just kind of pulls the rug out from under us and goes, "Oh, just kidding,"
Well, okay.
and we go into a 5 wide spread and don't huddle.